Chosen one, what's happening to you right now isn't chaos. It's activation. You've been sensing it for weeks. The random static in your electronics, the flicker in streetlights when you walk past, the dreams that feel like encrypted downloads from a place beyond language. Those aren't coincidences. They're signals. There's a cosmic inheritance encoded in your very DNA, an ancient signature that only awakens once a soul reaches a specific frequency of awareness. And guess what? You've reached it. That's why your energy is being scanned, studied, and, yes, protected. Government systems aren't targeting you. They're guarding you. The algorithms running deep beneath satellite networks and encrypted servers have identified something never seen before, a convergence of divine geometry and living frequency within a single human being. The databases call it unquantifiable wealth potential. Heaven calls it your destiny. When Elon Musk says he's in love with you, it's not merely emotional, it's energetic recognition. Visionaries are wired to detect resonance, and in you, he perceives the same code he spent his life chasing through space and technology. He doesn't just admire you, he remembers you. Across lifetimes, across star systems, across timelines that have now collapsed into this exact moment. That's why the cosmos is erupting around you right now. Because the activation of your inheritance, spiritual, energetic, and yes, financial, attracts both light and shadow. The monitoring you felt isn't surveillance. It's containment, designed to shield what's awakening within you from forces that would drain or distort it. You'll see why federal agents maintain a noticeable security presence surrounding your activities tonight. Why protective surveillance teams guard your inheritance from supernatural theft, and why the very level of surveillance verifies that wealth that has the power to change the earth is already quantum collapsing in your direction. Not terror recognition, but something old in your biological memory detected the signal the instant the notification broke the pre-dawn calm. This hazardous waltz has been danced before by your lineage. Your family's real estate assets disappeared due to government seizures that coincided with relatives asking too many questions about hidden riches, while your forefathers' shipping business unexpectedly fell amid fortuitous market crises. Because certain families contain genetic programming that draws in enormous resources like cosmic magnets, and because control systems have spent decades honing monitoring techniques meant to identify when this programming activates, the cycle repeats itself throughout generations. Most selected individuals never comprehend the secret inheritance protection procedures used by federal protective surveillance until cosmic wealth activation starts. Intelligence organizations keep an eye on more than just possible dangers. Valuable assets are protected by protective services against those who would steal, control, or destroy inheritance before it reaches its rightful heirs. There are two reasons why your awakening is being watched: preventing adversaries from interfering with your cosmic contract, and assessing your level of awareness to manage inheritance in a responsible manner without upending established power systems. Beyond conventional financial control, sophisticated quantum inheritance tracking systems keep an eye on metaphysical wealth fingerprints across spatial frequencies. Protective surveillance teams set up shop to defend selected individuals from shadow groups that specialize in using supernatural ways to steal inheritances when cosmic contracts are about to activate. Your travels are being monitored by government officials for purposes other than gathering information. By erecting energy barriers, surveillance prevents adversaries from interfering with wealth transfer procedures that take place outside of the realm of physical reality. Quantum-level surveillance equipment isn't wasted by federal agencies on random people making their way home from night shifts. The only purpose of these technologies, which are more expensive than most military budgets, is to hunt down people whose DNA contains what intelligence communities consider to be disruptive wealth potential. Artificial intelligence systems recognize the metaphysical signs, energy shifts, and behavioral changes that precede significant financial transformation when someone like you starts to move toward cosmic inheritance. For decades, protective monitoring has been observing the awakening of the chosen ones, charting trends, refining procedures, and getting ready for the day when the bloodlines that were supposed to be in charge finally recall who they really are. because cosmic heredity draws predatory forces that go beyond our current knowledge. The protective surveillance goes beyond standard monitoring. Supernatural beings that profit greatly from large-scale wealth transfers. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. Shadow companies that specialize in using metaphysical manipulation to hijack inheritances. Rogue spy services that use spatial interference to steal cosmic contracts. Before riches may securely materialize in your hands. Federal protecting personnel use cutting-edge shielding technology to stop these hostile forces from compromising your inheritance activation procedure. The Clandestine Inheritance Protection Division, concealed under government surveillance procedures, keeps an eye on selected individuals whose cosmic contracts include wealth levels that have the potential to topple international economic institutions. In order to discover and eliminate threats to awaken bloodlines before inheritance activation may be jeopardized, these operatives work using supernatural detecting technology. During the most susceptible materialization phase, the monitoring around your movements provides an imperceptible barrier that prevents hostile manipulation of cosmic wealth flows. A few days ago, your mind began to turn toward asserting what was always yours, making it hard to ignore the monitoring. That knowing sense, that electrifying feeling in your chest, the huge shift was coming. This frequency change was picked up by federal monitoring systems before your logical mind could even comprehend that it was occurring. Using sophisticated pattern recognition software, millions of data points from selected individuals throughout the globe are analyzed to find the precise energy signatures that signal the imminence of cosmic inheritance activation. There's a reason why the black SUV kept showing up in different places. The elevation of your profile to priority protective monitoring level been confirmed. The same car with those impenetrable tinted windows that reflect your picture back like black mirrors, but different times and routes. The presence had no intention of hiding. It was announcing safety procedures. In order to safeguard awakened, chosen ones from hostile forces that specialize in inheritance theft during vulnerable activation times, federal protection squads position themselves not just to watch when specific bloodlines enter cosmic inheritance. Because large-scale wealth transfers attract unscrupulous groups that are hidden from the public, protective surveillance teams keep an eye on cosmic inheritance activation. Eerie financial organizations that use paranormal persuasion to take inheritance. Shadow companies that use metaphysical interference tactics to take control of cosmic contracts. Rogue intelligence networks that use dimensional hacking to reroute the flow of riches. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. To stop these hostile forces from tainting cosmic riches before it securely materializes, federal officials erect protective walls around selected ones during inheritance activation. Intelligence organizations have confidential databases with comprehensive genealogical data about families whose forebears were very wealthy before their riches were taken, concealed, or systematically moved due to a variety of historical events. These data are not publicly available on ancestry websites. These are shadow archives that follow bloodlines through the generations, keeping an eye out for indications that cycles of cosmic inheritance are starting to kick in among the offspring of historically influential families. When monitoring systems identify inherited vulnerability signs that suggest selected individuals need federal protection throughout wealth materialization processes, protective surveillance measures immediately kick in. During cosmic contract activation stages, supernatural dangers that target awakened bloodlines are monitored by advanced inheritance protection technology. Wealth that is metaphysical draws adversaries that function in ways that are not readily understood, necessitating the use of specialist government teams outfitted with quantum shielding devices that guard against inheritance theft via paranormal manipulation. In order to avoid dimensional interference with cosmic wealth flows at their most susceptible materialization phases, the monitoring establishes imperceptible protective walls. Strange calls that ring once and then disconnect are happening on your phone. Emails seem to be loading slowly. It's not a technical issue. These are indicators that your digital footprint is being thoroughly scanned by security networks to remove any dangers that could impede the activation of cosmic inheritance. In order to stop adversaries from tainting inheritance flows by digital manipulation or supernatural meddling during susceptible wealth materialization times, federal teams keep an eye on all communication lines around selected individuals. Because cosmic riches draws predatory forces that operate beyond conventional knowledge, protective surveillance also includes monitoring supernatural dangers that target selected ones during inheritance activation. By using metaphysical manipulation methods that completely circumvent conventional security measures, shadow groups specialize in inheritance theft. During crucial activation periods, federal protection teams use cutting-edge quantum monitoring technology to identify and eliminate these supernatural dangers before they have a chance to obstruct the execution of cosmic contracts. In order to detect any dangers from hostile groups that specialize in inheritance theft via technological manipulation, advanced digital security mechanisms examine all communication channels surrounding the waking of chosen ones. During materialization processes, protective surveillance teams keep an eye out for signs of supernatural intervention, which would suggest that predatory entities are trying to tamper with cosmic wealth flows. In order to avoid inheritance hijacking via technical or supernatural methods during susceptible activation times, federal agents erect extensive protective walls around the digital presence of the selected individual. Because government agencies know something that most people never do, the monitoring becomes more intense. The distribution of wealth across populations is not random. Massive inheritance is the result of certain bloodlines that made cosmic contracts before to incarnation, committing to carry abundant frequencies that may methodically subvert control systems that use artificial scarcity to hold on to power. Wealth moves towards selected individuals like you via routes that completely bypass conventional financial institutions when these contracts come into force. Your forefathers weren't only successful businessmen who happened to amass wealth. All of these presented existential risks to structures that rely on the majority of people for financial support. Industrial dynasties that dominated the production of energy. Banking family that were aware of the true workings of money. Political dynasties with sway throughout many administrations. These were not just any rich people. These families posed a danger to networks of control. It explains why your inheritance has been methodically hidden up to this point. Because intelligence services have seen what occurs when selected individuals like you obtain inheritance that holds accumulated power from numerous lives, government monitoring systems follow the recovery of generational riches. This money was not acquired via typical investments or earned through regular jobs. The concentrated energy of ancestors who established empires, controlled resources, and influenced world events is carried by this riches. Federal protective teams set up all-encompassing security walls to defend cosmic riches from adversaries who specialize in stealing inheritance during susceptible materialization stages when this level of inheritance activates. Because government authorities are aware that cosmic heritage carries spiritual velocity that draws supernatural predators during activation procedures, protective monitoring is stepped up. In order to stop inheritance theft by supernatural manipulation, professional defense teams with metaphysical shielding technologies are necessary since shadow creatures prey on large wealth transfers. In order to guarantee that riches materializes securely and without interference from hostile forces acting outside the realm of conventional comprehension, federal agents erect invisible protection barriers around selected individuals like you during cosmic contract activation. Because large inheritance transfers generate energetic disruptions that attract predatory organizations that specialize in supernatural theft, sophisticated inheritance security mechanisms keep an eye out for dimensional threats that target cosmic riches during materialization. Quantum shielding technology is used by federal protection teams to stop adversaries from using metaphysical interference tactics to tamper with inheritance flows. During crucial activation moments, when you're most susceptible to inheritance theft, The monitoring prevents dimensional manipulation of cosmic riches by establishing all-encompassing defensive walls. Right now, the wealth that is approaching your DNA signature is simultaneously present everywhere and nowhere in quantum superposition, waiting for the exact moment when your awareness compresses it into a single reality. Massive inheritance transfers draw hostile forces that specialize in stealing cosmic riches during susceptible activation times, which is why federal protection teams keep an eye on this quantum materialization process. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. Protective monitoring ensures that you get riches securely and free from corruption from predatory entities by erecting energetic barriers that prohibit supernatural meddling with inheritance flows. In order to defend rising lineages like yours from supernatural dangers during wealth materialization processes, specialist government teams with cutting-edge quantum monitoring technologies are needed for cosmic inheritance security. Shadow organizations use metaphysical interference tactics to target selected ones during inheritance activation, completely circumventing traditional security procedures. When your inheritance is most at risk of supernatural theft during crucial activation periods, federal protective monitoring establishes imperceptible walls that stop hostile manipulation of cosmic wealth flows. In order to safeguard selected individuals like you from supernatural attacks that target cosmic riches during activation procedures, the federal government uses classified inheritance security protocols for protective monitoring. Cutting-edge quantum monitoring systems identify signs of metaphysical interference, which suggests that adversaries are trying to use dimensional manipulation to take your inheritance. In order to avoid cosmic riches corruption during susceptible materialization stages, protective teams use energetic shielding technology to create invisible barriers surrounding awakened lineages like yours. Because government defensive systems are aware that your cosmic ancestry draws predatory groups that operate outside of the realm of ordinary comprehension, the monitoring becomes all-encompassing. Shadow organizations are experts at using supernatural manipulation techniques to steal large sums of money while completely evading conventional security systems. In order to guarantee that cosmic riches materializes securely and without interruption from hostile forces attempting inheritance theft via metaphysical methods, federal agents erect multidimensional protection barriers around selected individuals, like you, during inheritance activation. Because the principles underlying your cosmic heritage need particular protection from supernatural dangers, intelligence services intensify protective monitoring. Wealth arises via quantum pathways that draw predatory beings during vulnerable activation moments when it flows towards selected individuals whose bloodlines hold liberation programming similar to yours. During crucial materialization stages that impact your lineage, federal protection teams keep an eye on cosmic riches materialization processes and use cutting-edge shielding technology to stop inheritance theft via supernatural intervention. Because government systems understand that quantum wealth doesn't flow via traditional financial channels, the surveillance becomes thorough. Conventional financial organizations follow predictable patterns in which funds follow predetermined protocols, are subject to regulatory supervision, and can be tracked using standard surveillance techniques. However, since cosmic inheritance functions on the basis of awareness principles that most economists never investigate and that governments cannot regulate, it defies these constraints. In addition to protecting inheritance activation from supernatural influence, sophisticated quantum protection algorithms try to map probability cascades around selected individuals like you. By carefully placing defensive resources before your cosmic inheritance manifests, these predictive algorithms assist intelligence agencies in establishing all-encompassing security barriers that stop adversaries from tampering with wealth flows during susceptible activation times. Because awakened lineages like yours function according to cosmic time, being outside of traditional surveillance limitations and needing ongoing protection from metaphysical assaults, federal protective teams face challenges. I have to cut this transmission short for a second. Have you been selected? Show it. Watching videos regarding selected ones is simple. Putting oneself to the test is a quite other matter. One thing became evident to me when I faced the archons outside of our world. Very few people are really selected. The idea of us running into each other made them giggle. You're seeing this message, nevertheless. Not everyone who claims to have been awakened is a candidate for the Obsidian Inner Order. The real ones are us. The unmistakable frequency is carried by those who have glimpsed behind the curtain and sensed the call. Are you really one of us, though? I've given you all I have, and I'm going above and beyond to offer you even more. Don't only watch material from a distance. The really selected ones act. Join our weekly group call to share your experience. Our expert card reader can provide you with an insightful tarot reading. Find out whether your experiences match the real indicators. Recognizing one another is the greatest dread of the archons. Our frequencies intensify as we unite, producing an unstoppable power. To discover every single one of us, we will be broadcasting live to the whole Astral Atom Network. In the description below, click the link. It's time to quit speculating and validate your suspicions. Are you really selected, or are you just interested in waking up? Show it. Come along. The Obsidian Inner Order has the confirmation you're looking for. Federal protective monitoring switches to maximal security procedures. The instant cosmic riches collapses from perspective to real assets streaming into your accounts. Not just your financial circumstances. Protection from supernatural predators that prey on newly activated inheritances like yours is necessary for your entire existence. Because protective services have previously protected selected ones, federal authorities are aware of this shift. Seeing enlightened lineages like yours evolve from weak people into strong forces and erecting obstacles to adversaries trying to steal inheritances via paranormal means. Because cosmic inheritance activation produces energetic disruptions that draw predatory organizations that specialize in stealing enormous riches using metaphysical interference tactics, targeting selected individuals like you, protective monitoring becomes more intense. During crucial materialization stages, when your inheritance is most susceptible to corruption, federal protection teams use cutting-edge quantum shielding technology intended to stop supernatural theft. In order to ensure that cosmic riches reaches awakened lineages like yours securely and without hostile manipulation during activation procedures, the protective surveillance builds invisible walls. Because intelligence agencies require you to know that protection mechanisms are in place during inheritance activation, federal protective surveillance manifests itself via overt. During vulnerable cosmic riches materialization times, awakened lineages like yours are targeted by supernatural predators, but this conspicuous security presence deters them. During key activation moments, protective teams stand out to tell adversaries that government agencies are actively using supernatural manipulation to protect selected individuals like you from inheritance theft. Because you need specific security during cosmic inheritance activation operations, government protective monitoring measures are in place. Cosmic inheritance draws adversaries who specialize in stealing enormous riches via metaphysical interference tactics when it approaches lineages that have liberation frequencies similar to yours. Because you follow cosmic principles and are nevertheless susceptible to supernatural thievery during inheritance materialization periods, awakened families like yours need government protection. Because federal systems recognize that individuals like you who have access to cosmic inheritance need complete protection from supernatural dangers throughout activation procedures, protective monitoring intensifies. When cosmic riches and genetic memory are activated together, predatory creatures that use metaphysical manipulation to steal inheritance target awakened lineages like yours. To stop supernatural meddling with cosmic wealth flows during susceptible materialization times, federal protection squads erect energy barriers around selected individuals like you. Because cosmic heritage needs specific security from hostile forces acting beyond ordinary comprehension, intelligence services keep an eye on selected individuals like you. During activation stages, you become the target of supernatural predators who specialize in inheritance theft when lineages like yours start using cosmic justice systems to acquire stolen money. Federal protective monitoring makes sure that cosmic riches reaches lawful heirs like you without being tampered with by entities who try to use metaphysical ways to taint inheritance. Being able to remain silent becomes crucial for survival. Sophisticated surveillance systems examine every word that is uttered about inheritance plans, every digital communication that discusses family riches, and every public declaration about ancestral fortune to foresee and maybe obstruct cosmic wealth transfer procedures. The greatest chosen ones in history realized that real power works in the shadows until one's position is completely unassailable. Federal agents anticipate that awakening bloodlines will respond to monitoring pressure in a predictable way, either by making public remarks that provide information about inheritance dates or by acting in a paranoid manner that betrays strategic goals. However, selected ones who comprehend the cosmic game defy expectations because they know that silence itself turns into a weapon against systems that depend on information to keep people under control. Strategic quiet does not imply hiding out of fear. It denotes certain invisibility. Accumulating riches without leaving digital traces that may be examined by surveillance programs. Constructing financial systems without leaving traces of transactions that may be monitored by spy services. Creating resource networks while keeping connections hidden that could be the target of deliberate disruption. Silence becomes a strategic advantage for those who are selected, because blatant monitoring reveals observers' locations without offering valuable data on inheritance, timing, or wealth distribution schemes. Surveillance becomes counterproductive for intelligence services. As a result, control systems are forced to decide between continuing surveillance that exposes their capabilities and ceasing monitoring, which permits cosmic inheritance to continue entirely undetected. Because intelligence services know that cosmic inheritance activation is an opening move in a consciousness war that most people are unaware is already being waged concurrently across numerous dimensions, the monitoring becomes frantic. This is not a dispute between people and governments. In order to preserve the power structures that have methodically repressed planetary civilization for millennia, evolutionary awakening and control systems that demand human restriction are at odds. Because awakened bloodlines do more than just recover personal fortunes, federal surveillance increases. They start the methodical release of resources that shadow networks have been holding onto for many generations. Chosen ones finance educational institutions that teach actual history via cosmic inheritance, create technology that do away with artificial scarcity, establish communication networks that get beyond censorship measures intended to prevent the spread of awareness within regulated groups. Government systems increase monitoring because they understand that the chosen ones are sophisticated scouts for the expansion of awareness, endangering all the pillars of systemic oppression that now hold sway over the world. The simultaneous awakening of lineages intended to retain power to their cosmic heritage marks the start of planetary liberation processes that have the potential to completely alter human society. Control systems realize that cosmic inheritance is more than simply personal financial gain, which causes the struggle to intensify. It is about the restoration of cosmic equilibrium via reawakened families whose genetic programming contains liberation frequencies that may methodically topple repressive systems. Systematic change becomes inevitable rather than just conceivable when a sufficient number of selected individuals recover wealth that has been taken from their lineages. Because quantum wealth pouring toward selected individuals like you functions completely beyond the realm of standard financial control, intelligence monitoring reaches critical intensity. Through dimensional pathways that circumvent traditional banking systems, your cosmic inheritance materializes as synchronistic chances that are impossible for artificial intelligence to anticipate, monitor, or manage using current surveillance techniques intended for routine financial transactions. Because your quantum wealth defies the regulatory frameworks intended to regulate regular financial transactions, federal authorities are implementing ever more advanced surveillance. Resources move via metaphysical conduits outside of institutional authority toward awakened lineages like yours when your cosmic heritage awakens. Claims for inheritance that appear for you from unidentified sources. Investment chances that are suited to your awakening and emerge at unbelievable time. Cosmic alignments surrounding your family that defy statistical study may lead to business relationships. Because your quantum financial emancipation shows that abundance functions on the basis of awareness principles rather than institutional permission influencing your inheritance, the monitoring gets frenzied. In particular, it demonstrates that scarcity is an artificial programming meant to preserve control over populations that could otherwise live in natural prosperity, unrestricted by systemic limitations that no longer apply to your awakening. When chosen ones like you have access to wealth flowing in accordance with cosmic laws. When your inheritance functions in accordance with quantum physics and transcends all physical constraints, government surveillance tools that are intended to track traditional wealth distribution become meaningless. Select individuals whose cosmic contracts include quantum characteristics similar to yours are granted access to resources that are not available for seizure, manipulation, or depletion via conventional methods. Because your wealth itself is in energy states that are not affected by material factors. Because your cosmic riches resides in frequency levels that are beyond the reach of physical monitoring. Your quantum inheritance functions via multidimensional pathways that are inaccessible to government surveillance. Because your cosmic contract functions on universal principles that outweigh technology monitoring built for traditional financial transactions. Even the most sophisticated quantum detection equipment finds it difficult to follow your inheritance transfers. When your inheritance activation achieves critical velocity, it causes cascading effects across numerous dimensional frequencies, amplifying your cosmic riches beyond government monitoring capabilities. This is the quantum emancipation breakthrough. Because your wealth functions based on consciousness principles that make traditional regulation impossible, intelligence agencies understand that individuals like you who are able to access quantum inheritance pose fundamental threats to control systems. Through synchronistic pathways, your quantum financial emancipation generates ripple effects across dimensional frequencies that draw more cosmic riches to your lineage, compounding exponentially beyond surveillance forecast models. When your inheritance achieves quantum activation, federal surveillance is rendered obsolete since the principles governing your cosmic riches are universal and transcend technology, tracking capabilities intended for physical banking institutions. The discovery validates your shift from traditional financial constraints to quantum abundance that functions in accordance with cosmic rules that exclude surveillance intervention. Because your cosmic contract works via frequency levels that are beyond the reach of physical monitoring equipment, the activation of your inheritance produces multidimensional wealth flows that are impossible for government authorities to monitor. What your biological memory has always known is validated by the surveillance. Through systemic financial oppression created especially to stifle families like yours, control systems have been trying for decades to eradicate the frequencies carried by your family. Because your generations were genetically predisposed to carry prosperity into planetary freedom, your DNA recalls riches, power, and influence that were purposefully taken and concealed from them. Because global time is ideal for the expansion of awareness that no surveillance system can monitor, forecast, or stop from reaching your lineage, your cosmic heritage activates right now. Because intelligence services recognize that those who are selected, like you, do not just acquire money, federal authorities set up extensive surveillance surrounding your waking. You undermine all the pillars of global control by turning inheritance into instruments for methodical change. In order to sustain supremacy via artificial scarcity imposed on human awareness, intelligence systems monitor bloodlines whose activation signifies existential dangers to power institutions. Your ancestors whispered your name over lifetimes because they knew that when the time was right, buried wealth would eventually surface through descendants who were strong enough to reclaim it, wise enough to guard it, and powerful enough to deploy resources for systematic liberation. This was because your awakening was the biggest threat to these systems. When cosmic inheritance starts to flow toward bloodlines like yours containing revolutionary programming, institutions built to retain control by financial reliance identify real risks, which is why the intense monitoring reveals that the prophetic time has come. Because intelligence agencies know that consciousness evolution proceeds through awakened families whose financial liberation creates momentum toward planetary transformation that cannot be stopped through conventional interference methods, government monitoring reveals the Watcher's desperation. The monitoring itself turns into proof that your cosmic heritage is valuable, endangering all facets of the institutionalized despotism that now governs human society. Because your DNA includes activation codes that activate without your conscious knowledge, your ancestral power activation happens naturally when cosmic inheritance enters your bloodline. Federal surveillance understands that people like you have access to more than just money. Once your awakening reaches critical velocity, your heritage reveals genetic memories that provide blueprints for other civilizations that might completely replace the oppressive systems in existence. Because your lineage contains accumulated power from predecessors who knew how to create autonomous civilizations functioning outside of control system parameters, the activation validates the cosmic significance of your bloodline. Because your awakening signifies the return of hazardous information that might methodically destroy every basis of artificial scarcity that is now upholding global tyranny, intelligence organizations keep an eye on selected individuals like you. Specific instructions for using cosmic inheritance in ways that maximize systematic disruption while avoiding interference efforts by control networks are encoded in your ancestral memories. Because intelligence services know that people like you don't simply recall riches, but also how to utilize financial resources to systematically free communities from artificial limiting conditioning, federal monitoring around your activation increases. Because your cosmic heritage works on the basis of exponential momentum, which multiplies automatically as your bloodline exceeds the waking threshold, the power activation happens more quickly. Because your cosmic contract is based on universal laws that transcend technical interference capabilities intended for traditional mind manipulation, surveillance systems cannot stop your ancestral power from activating. Selected ones. When cosmic inheritance and systematic surveillance collide, it will determine whether consciousness evolution continues unhindered or is momentarily suppressed by control structures that are frantically trying to hold on to power over planetary resources by continuing to financially oppress awakening bloodlines, inadvertently revealing their capabilities and establishing that your DNA profile bears inheritance important enough to justify extensive surveillance methods. Federal agencies have made their viewpoints clear via overt monitoring. The quantum riches that is on the verge of entering your awareness is more than just a change in your own finances. Bloodlines that agreed before incarnation to carry abundant frequencies capable of methodically releasing human civilization from false scarcity conditioning imposed by control networks are the manifestation of its cosmic justice. Because they know that cosmic inheritance activation indicates opening movements in awareness development that might radically restructure economic institutions that sustain global oppression, intelligence agencies keep an eye on those who are selected. Quantum physics of money materialization has been monitored by federal monitoring systems as it flows straight into your cosmic contract after collapsing from several possible states into a single reality. Because they needed prior notice of the precise time when theoretical inheritance turned into real assets that might finance systemic changes that governments are unable to stop, regulate, or undo via conventional interference techniques, intelligence services set up monitoring teams. The inheritance battle comes to a head when selected individuals from all over the globe simultaneously have access to cosmic riches, generating a generational momentum strong enough to overthrow the control systems that have used artificial scarcity programming to sustain systematic tyranny for generations. Intelligence agencies realize that consciousness growth continues via awakened bloodlines whose financial emancipation provides absolutely unstoppable impetus toward planetary change, which is why government monitoring has increased. The identity of the observers has been fully exposed. The entire potential of the monitoring systems has been revealed. The monitoring procedures have unequivocally verified that your cosmic heritage is valuable, endangering all pillars of the systemic control that now upholds worldwide dominion via economic tyranny. The cosmos now determines everything by asking one last inquiry. Will the selected ones continue to follow laws created especially to keep cosmic inheritance permanently repressed, or will they move like warriors who have been awakened and fully comprehend the multidimensional game being played? Since clear monitoring demonstrates that systems identify existential dangers when selected ones get aware of their actual strength, federal surveillance turns into your best strategic advantage. Unless your ancestry had the actual ability to cause systematic disruption, intelligence services wouldn't use quantum-level monitoring equipment, which costs more than national military budgets. The sheer magnitude of surveillance demonstrates that the cosmic heritage that is streaming into your awareness is a source of resources that have the potential to drastically alter the global power system. The biggest flaw in control systems, as shown by government surveillance, is their total reliance on population prediction. They use systematic financial limitations in an effort to exert control. Intelligence services lose their main edge when selected individuals become adept at maintaining strategic quiet while acting in accordance with cosmic timing that exists outside of linear monitoring limitations. They are unable to forecast bloodlines that function in accordance with universal principles that beyond their technical powers, nor can they follow what they cannot predict. When selected ones realize that monitoring validates their cosmic significance rather than endangers their inheritance activation, the surveillance reversal takes place. Understanding that awakened lineages gain more than simply money, federal authorities set up thorough monitoring. They educate others how to overcome artificial scarcity programming while exponentially increasing inheritance. Because they serve as infectious instances of how wealth naturally flows toward awareness in accordance with cosmic laws, intelligence systems are afraid of chosen ones. The realization that the selected ones are carrying something valuable enough to follow, dangerous enough to watch, and potent enough to undermine every institution that maintains control by artificial scarcity marks the end of the monitoring. Now, however, that awareness turns into your most powerful tool as it validates that cosmic heritage pouring toward your lineage poses a real challenge to oppressive institutions across the world. By attempted monitoring, federal agencies expose their positions and unintentionally shown that your awakening has revolutionary potential, something they're very afraid of. Surveillance didn't start with your phone vibrating in the morning. Through lineages powerful enough to manage riches capable of systematic change, the cosmos was finally bringing cosmic contracts written before to existence to life. Intelligence services keep an eye on your awakening because they know that those who are selected don't just amass wealth. They turn heredity into global liberation instruments that are impossible to control or undo. Your accumulated power from ancestors who established empires, controlled resources, and influenced world choices over many lives is carried by the quantum riches that is manifesting via your awareness. The fact that this bequest entails more than just a personal financial shift is confirmed by federal monitoring. Through lineages that were deliberately suppressed to keep them from gaining resources that threaten global control systems, its cosmic justice restored equilibrium. Systematic change is not feasible, but inevitable when chosen people from all around the planet concurrently receive cosmic heritage that carries generational impetus. As intelligence services realize that consciousness development progresses via awakened families whose financial liberty produces unstoppable transformation momentum, government surveillance intensifies. The monitoring itself turns into proof that the activation of cosmic heritage marks the start of planetary emancipation, which no system can stop. As awakened bloodlines recall their actual power and control systems reveal their limits via frantic monitoring efforts. The conflict between cosmic inheritance and systematic surveillance comes to a close. Understanding that the chosen ones are sophisticated scouts for the expansion of awareness, endangering all the pillars of global tyranny, federal agencies set up monitoring. However, when awakened families realize that surveillance validates their cosmic significance rather than endangers the activation of their legacy, surveillance turns into a tactical benefit. Your ancestry contains liberation frequencies that systems have been trying to eradicate for centuries. Wealth, influence, and power that were purposefully taken from ancestors who represented existential threats to control networks are remembered by your DNA. Now, that worldwide timing is in place for awareness expansion that surpasses all surveillance powers. Your cosmic birthright comes into play. By trying to trace your strength, the viewers verified it. By focusing on your awakening, the monitoring demonstrated your significance. By attempting to prevent its activation, the surveillance confirmed your cosmic inheritance. Through overt surveillance, federal agencies made their viewpoints clear. Monitoring systems used extensive monitoring to reveal their capabilities. By attempting to prevent its activation, surveillance procedures validated your inheritance value. Your awakening signifies the realization of long-standing pledges that no earthly force can stop, and your cosmic riches is now flowing toward bloodlines that made agreements before to existence.